Good morning. I'd like to welcome Attorney Vince Revil, who is the recently appointed administrator of the Local Water Utilities Administration. And you already told me to call you Vince. So Vince,
Good morning, Ben.
welcome to the Manila Times, and thank you for taking time out to talk with us a bit today. I think what I'd like to start off with is give you an opportunity, just maybe if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, and as you are the new administrator and one of the offices that now seems to have a little stability within the administration with your appointment, maybe give us a few broad strokes of what you see happening for LWUA in the next couple of years.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you for having me here in our Manila Times online platform for our open news and communication. So I would like first to thank our president for giving me the trust and confidence to be appointed as administrator of the local water utilities administration. I've been here for barely 2 months, and for the information of everyone, LWUA is as it is called, it is a local water utilities administration. So we are in charge of all the water districts outside the jurisdiction of Metro Manila. So all the provincial, the municipal, and the city water districts are handled by LWUA. And our president had said that we should ensure that there must be water security for our country, and there's an impending water crisis. So it is the president's directive that we should ensure that we put together all our water programs for our nation.
Now, I think one thing that, as you said earlier, the people here in Metro Manila, we have a little bit different system. But I think one thing people don't realize is one of the main jobs of LWUA is as a financing source for the local water districts. When you came in how do you find the state of the agency and its financial health and viability? Do you have sufficient resources to do what you need to do, or is there some things that the government can do to better support what you're working on?
LWUA had been there for the past 50 years. This year will be the 50th anniversary. It had been there by the virtue of the Presidential Decree 198. It was under the leadership of then the father of the president, President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. And now it was there because for the purposes of ensuring that there will be water districts in the entire country for the grassroots, for the countryside to have enough water resources. Now, it is a distinct office in itself because it has the mandate to finance the water districts. It has also the mandate to ensure that there's the technical support that has to be given to this water district. And of course, it has to build the institution for sustainability. So the operative word is sustainability. Now, when I was able to assume the office, I saw that there's a need to enhance the mandate of the office by ensuring that there is enough funding for it. Because for the past years, we have seen that there's a bit of challenge on the financial side. And we'll be requesting eventually with the national government, with the leadership from Congress, from the Senate, from the whole of government approach, that we need to ensure that there's enough development for the water districts. Because as you can see, water is really a development issue. It is not all about just anything that has to do with purely with other things, but it's development of ensuring that the entire country will be provided with water and sanitation, so that no one should be left behind. So during this administration, we are looking at an investment on the PBBM projects, or Patubig sa Buong Bayan at Mambayan, in which it's coined under the name of the President. Well, this is to ensure that there will be an expansion of the water source development, and also the expansion of connectivities to more household, more population. Secondly, there must be an equitable and at the same time sustainable way of doing our sanitation and sanitation, because we have to ensure the health of our people. Thirdly, there must be the climate resiliency programs for the water sector. And the most important of all is that the term should be sustainable. Everything should be sustainable, not just because, again, as the President had said, this is the only administration that has a program, has a clear program about water. So we need to integrate everything in this program of the PBBM. So we already put forth projects and the financing that has to go with it. So hopefully we'll be asking the leadership to put more funds to about more than 700 projects that we have identified throughout the country, and about more than 40 sanitation projects for the entire country.
I see. Okay, now let's talk about the hot topic, and the pun intended, with our weather being what it is. We've been hearing warnings for a couple of months now, and Pagasa had a rather sharp warning yesterday that they are planning to declare the El Nino, I'm not sure what they're calling it, alert, next month. I mean, we're pretty certain that that's going to happen, and of course that typically causes some problems with water supply. What is LWUA doing to ensure, even if it's like stopgap measures just to get through the hardest month, what's LWUA doing to ensure that you don't run into serious problems in different places in the country? And are there particular parts of the country that are more of a concern than others?
That is the crisis that we are looking at now, because that is the environmental crisis that we're having, because of that's the El Nino, and we have been having that experience for the past years. So it's not really new to us, but then we just really have to ensure that it should be mitigated. So on the part of LWUA, together with the 532 water districts throughout the country, and it is spread through about 995 local government units spread throughout the different cities and municipalities. We have come up with a directive to ask all of them to ensure that there is the right inventory for the supply of water, to ensure that there should be conservation efforts that has to be undertaken, and at the same time to ensure that the hygiene and health of the people will be protected. Since there are practical ways that they have been doing already, because the system has been there for the past 50 years. So the water districts are very dependable in doing this. So during the last Philippine Association of the Water Districts, we have already given the instruction to all of them to ensure that all the conservation efforts has to be done. If rationing has to be done, then we have to do that. But then the sad part of it is because we all know that during rainy season, supposedly there should be a lot of water. But also during dry season, it seems that we have the drought. So that's why we have to put our acts together, and in line with this, this is where we should put our bigger program for the government. There should be more projects for the bulk supply, as the President had said, that there must be more projects for the surface water supply. And I think what this leadership wants is to ensure first the source of water. So we are now going to identify the big sources of water, and that is where the direction of the projects of this national government will be focused. Then on the part of LWUA, together with the water districts, will be there to tap on that big water projects to supply it and give it to the household. So that itself will become the sustainable projects for this administration, and that will be the long-term solution for our recurring El Nino phenomenon crisis.
Now, what are some of the conservation measures that are being undertaken by? Could you give us a few examples? Could you give us a few examples that maybe we could use here in the city, because it tends to, every time the El Nino comes, it tends to hit some people here pretty hard.
You know what? I came from humble beginning. I came from the province, from a province in the province in Masbate. So I can remember during my early years, we always source our water from the rainfall, and when it rains, we have a big tank that we put our our rainwater, and that sustains us for the rest of the year. So we don't have to really do always the deep well, because the deep well will not be sustainable because it can destroy the water table. So that's one. If here in Metro Manila, we can still have the program for water tanks using our no less than our own roof, that it can be the source of the water, and put it in a tank and have it for our household consumption. That in itself is very practicable. Secondly, if I'm used to a provincial or rural life, we usually dig man-made. We dig part of the land, a few hectares, and that itself can already be the catch basin for our water. And that in itself is a very practicable way of doing things. We have seen some technologies that are happening also, that the bigger one, which is because of a lot of technology and engineering that goes with it. We have the Sambo dams, which are being done in Japan, which can be replicated here in the Philippines. Those are small dams that can be that we can implement throughout the entire country. And well, I learned this because we do a lot of convergence with the different agencies. Because at the end of the day, if we're going to solve our we have to integrate our water resource management. We have to talk with each other and learn from each other's experience. So regarding the last issue that I told you about the dams, I just talked with the National Irrigation Authority about the implementation for the entire country, because as you know, a dam can be a source for irrigation for the agriculture. It can also be for hydro, and of course, most importantly, for the source of safe water for the people. So we have to. That's why we have to
also as a
incorporate
flood
this.
control measure in
Yes.
in the right areas. Well, now you brought up an interesting point. To the degree that you have to coordinate, and of course, for several years, there has been an effort, and not successful so far, an effort in Congress to create a Department of Water. Where do you stand on that, and what would you like to see? What shape would you like that department to take, and what would be the advantages for what LWUA does now, to have that in place?
I think the word should be integrate and converge. Let's start with that. That's why there's now the possible creation of the office, Water Resource Management Office, to put forth integration of all the different water sectors, and come up with a convergent program on how to put this together and harmonize our efforts in ensuring that there is the right water management for our country. So that is the situation that we have it now. About the creation of if we can already perform in that office regarding our own rules on how to do these things, if we can already harmonize how we can tap the Laguna Lake Development Authority to also be a source of water, the Laguna Bay, the irrigation, National Irrigation Authority, that all the irrigations in the entire country can already be the source of water also. And we put it together with the Department of Environment for the environmental issues, the the Water Resource Board. If we just put forth our the right permits that goes with it, on the part of LWUA and the water districts, that we know our role, which is for the expansion on the level 3 water connections in the entire country, because that at the end of the day will always be the sustainable way of developing it and dependable, because it had been there for the past 50 years. Regarding also the other water projects being undertaken by the DILG, by the DPWH, that if we could put this together and make it sustainable, then we could have a clear directive on what will happen to our water management. Now, as regards to the creation of the Department of Water, there is wisdom that goes with it too. But I leave it to the political acts of Congress on what they want to do with that. But I, as Administrator of LWUA, will always be together with the directive of the President on whatever he wants to do with resource management of our water resources.
One idea that has been pushed with the National Irrigation Administration, NIA, in terms of development, because NIA is so slow, is to promote PPP, public-private partnership projects, to get some of their irrigation projects done, much more quickly. But I know that in LWUA's area of things, privatization over the past several years has been kind of problematic and not very well accepted in some areas. But do you see a role for something like PPP or more private sector investment to help you get your objectives met in terms of development? Whether it's like water supply or sanitation, I'm not sure which is more important or which is more viable as a PPP opportunity.
I've been here, as I told you, I've been here for only the past 2 months, and I'm trying now to study more about what's happening with the joint ventures that are happening with different water districts. I believe that the water districts and the local water utilities administration, as a GOCC, government-owned and controlled corporation, under the PD 198, is imbued with public interest. So that is the primordial directive that how we should perform our task. Since it is a public interest, because it is a utility, it is a water resource, and it will always be all about development. As you can see, the development should be holistic in how we do it. It should be from a lens in which we should look that it is not all about the bottom line. But then what's more important is that the thriving water districts has really be supported, because no private money will go into those water districts, and it's composed of about 60 to 70% of our portfolio of the 532 water districts. So that is the big role of LWUA. The big role of LWUA is that there should always be a continuing funding to sustain the other water districts for them to really develop. There are 4 categories of water districts. The letter D category is there less than 3,000 connectivity. The category D is less than 3,000 connectivity. 10,000 to 3,000, that's the category C. Below 30,000, that's the category B, and beyond 30,000, that's category A. So most of the water districts throughout the country, it is about 65%, or almost 70% are category C and D. So they have to to be sustained always. And most of these water districts are located in the parts of our country which is open to climate challenges, because there's always the typhoon that comes in, so their water lines are always broken, or and they don't have the scale to really just do it on their own. So there must be a continuing government sustainable support to them. But then to the big water districts that can already sustain on their own, they're already profitable, and they can even help the underdeveloped water districts. Now, on the part of the private investments, if ever they come in, I hope that it is not just all about the bottom line. Because at the end of the day, there must be, again, as I said earlier, that it is all about a development issue.
Right.
And we have to, there's a new NEDA guidelines that we have to look into, because at the end of the day, the water districts will always be a GOCC. It will always be of public interest. So we will always harmonize our efforts to ensure that there will be the right operation and management of the water districts, be it a purely GOCC water district, or if they already ventured into the joint venture. Now, the reason why we are reviewing the joint venture agreements is because we want to harmonize them together. There must really be the right infusion of support, especially it's all about finance. The reason why more JVs are happening, it's all about the bottom line, it's all about the money, because they feel that they need more infusion of funds.
Well, yeah.
So if the water districts are properly infused with funds until they have fully grown, then I think they will sustain on their own. But now, if they need more money from the private sector, then that's the reason why there's the JV that's happening now.
To what extent, this is something that has come up in past conversations that I've had with LWUA, but to what extent could that 60 to 70% that are in the almost too small to be independently viable water districts, to what extent can some consolidation happen there? I know that sometimes there's geographical issues, it's just not possible, and sometimes there's political issues because water districts are valuable in different ways to different people. But is there any chance that you could take some of these very small water districts that need a lot of help and put them together, to form bigger? Well, I know this is something that former Administrator Lapis talked about, and he also pointed out that it was very challenging. But I mean, is there, it maybe as an alternative to getting in too many joint ventures, which, like I said, the ones that have gone off so far have upset a lot of people, and maybe this would be a better alternative.
I think you've already laid on the foundation when you asked the question that the Philippines as an archipelago, we are composed of distinct islands. So the real challenge will always be, just like the poverty incidents in our country, that those places which are islands and they don't have that much amount of water resources that can sustain them, so they always have to undergo the challenges for development is real, because again, I came from a province which is an island, so I'm well versed with the real situation in the countryside. I go with you with the thoughts of having the real scale, because we also have the metro water districts. The metro water districts are those big water districts because of their interconnectivities, because of their proximity to each other. So it becomes a scale. So they themselves are strong. But just like the poverty indicators in our entire country, that's also the poverty indicator of the water districts. So where there is the source of water is not enough, there's also a lot of direct correlation also with poverty incidence in our country. So that's why we should continue helping them. That's why this is the program of the PBPM project, Patubig sa Buong Bayan at Mamamayan infrastructure project, because we want to reach to a tipping point wherein the connectivity of to the households should already be enough for them to be able to sustain their operations. There's the cash flow projections that we are looking into now, in which so that they can be very viable in their operations. That's why we are looking at the inventory of all the water districts, and we want them to be really strong, that they can develop on their own. But we need to continuously fund them probably for, I'm looking at an investment probably in the next 4 years, and we can see the growth of a lot of water districts. If this sustains, I hope that our political leaders will continuously sustain this growing water districts, because eventually, if they already grow for in the next, continuously sustained funding for them and expansion for them with technical support in the next 4 years, I think they can grow bigger. We are looking at about 15% of them can really grow in the next 2 years. And hopefully before the end of the term of the president, with all the connectivities, we are looking at about, hopefully about 35% increase and development of our water districts.
Well, the growth, yeah, growth is a good point. How many households, outside of Metro Manila, obviously, how many households across the country are potential customers for a water district one way or another? What is the percentage of people who actually have a water connection across the country? I think it probably would. I think I remember the answer, but you're the expert, so I'll let you give it.
As regards to the household, there are about 5.5 million households throughout the country, which has the water connectivity. That's on the part of the LWUA and the water districts.
Right.
But then, and at times you only multiply it by 4.1%. So that's also the number of the population that we have already water supply to. Now, on the part of our targets for the next 5 years is that we plan on increasing the target to additional 1.8 million households. That will increase to about 2.4 million households that we can increase. We're having a big vision for the water sector through the water districts for an increase of connectivity to the households and to the increase of population, because as you can see that our population is growing, so we need to invest more in the next 5 years by about, we're looking at an investment probably of a minimum of 25 billion, 20 billion for the expansion of the water connectivities to the households, and another about 5 billion for the sanitation. We have to invest also not only, I have to emphasize this, but that we should not invest only on the water expansion of the water connectivity to the households, but we should also protect the hygiene and sanitation of our population, because we have to be compliant with the Clean Water Act, and as an environmental issue, we have to ensure that the health and sanitation of our people are being provided. And there's the Mandamus ruling by the Supreme Court that we also have to provide sanitation for all the first and substage for all the different water districts.
Now, this is a massive amount of funding that you're looking for. What are the prospects of, the government is, the national government's one potential source of it, but what are the prospects for external funding, say through ADB or JICA or USAID? Have you looked into that? Because you're hitting, you've already identified the sustainable development goals, that this will cover, and that's the kind of thing that's music to the ears of the MDBs. So have you prepared, a pitch for them yet?
For now, we already have an ODA, overseas funding for LWUA. We also have the EDB already, which EDB projects, which amounts to about $60 million, which is being implemented to various water districts. That's our current situation,
Right.
but we are trying to ensure that these are implemented properly. And at the same time, we are trying to pitch with coming from the JICA for them to also hopefully give us support, and also from the other European financial institutions that they can give support to the water development in our country. So I would like to ask that these funding institutions to help us, because we here at LWUA, Local Water Utilities Administration, together with the water districts, again, the operative word is sustainability. Not only that, when we provide projects, we ensure that it should be directed to the population, and that the project should be properly looked into in terms of the sustainability, and ensuring that, example, if there are, I'm trying to correlate this with the other projects that are happening, because some projects are being done that they just dig a well, and after that project is completed and the well is already, there's already water that goes with it, but it's located in a place wherein there's no right management for how it will be repaired if ever anything that happens to those equipment, and it just sometimes a waste of public funds. So if it is directly linked up with the projects linked up with the water district, it will be sustainable. Because if ever that certain equipment has a technical, or maybe just a one or two of those equipment is having a problem with their possible other tools that needs to be replaced, then it can be done by the water district. But otherwise, if we just dole it out and there's no sustainability that goes with it, then that will become a problem. So that's why I'm going to ask that if we're going to ask help from, if you're going to give funding for a sustainable water resource development, that should be through LWUA and through the water districts.
Right. Okay. That's a good point. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Earlier, you mentioned that sustainability is, and climate awareness, if you want to call it that, is a key ingredient in your project pipeline and ideas. Can you give us some examples of what kind of what kind of technologies or systems or methods that you would be looking to employ to make water systems more sustainable?
We have to be very compliant with our environmental rules, and at the same time the safe water rules, that ensuring that it should be potable. So there are new technologies that we are putting as part of our parallel support to all our infrastructure projects. That's why during the water convention, water district convention, water convention for all the water districts, we are emphasizing that there should be new technology that goes with it, because we're trying to ensure that there's the right hygiene and sanitation for the people, and at the same time it should be cost efficient. So there are new technologies that has to be adopted by the Philippines to ensure that the quality of water should be clean, and we are hoping that the Filipino people will not be spending too much of their money anymore just to purchase. Maybe it's a big, bold vision that I'm looking at, but we should not be buying any more waters from the stations. wherein if they can just if they can just drink water from the tap, that should be I think that should be the what we want to envision in the future. So that's what I'm looking into. That hopefully with all our filtering system, with all our ensuring that the pipes are up to date, so that the tap water can now be a source of potable drinking water. Because it seems that but because I believe that we can achieve that. We've seen that in other countries that they just drink from the tap and it's clean. So hopefully we can achieve that also.
That is a big ask, because you're going to have a hard time convincing people.
Yes.
Good luck with that one. That's a worthy dream, but that's going to be
Yes,
tricky. But as a benchmark for quality of water systems, I think that's probably a good a good target. How much in developing water systems are you trying to move water districts away from deep well sources? Because that's become an environmental issue, and particularly worse in some areas, low-lying areas that are already looking at sea level rise, and they're making the ground shrink at the same time. Are there alternatives to that?
Following the directive of our president, that the priority for water source should be surface water. So I believe that those are big ticket projects, and that is where our national government should really focus into, and that is through the directive of the president. So I believe that that's where the big source of money that DPWH can look into as their big ticket projects for the water source development. Just like our big highways, big roads, that it's being undertaken by the national government. It should come as a full government funding, because just like a road that we don't collect money from the users of the streets of the roads, so to speak. So that's where the big ticket projects should be invested into by the DPWH. Now, if that's already undertaken, if there's nothing in any territorial jurisdiction that there's really no surface water, then we have no other alternative but at the same time use the groundwater, just like in small islands. So that's just the second alternative. But at the end of the day, it should always be the first primordial directive should be investment in the big surface water preparation for the source of water for our population. Now, on the part of LWUA and the water districts, we have already made some convergence. So all the projects of the DPWH, wherein they have now for their sources of water, that they're trying to build some deep wells or some other water projects, that there are water districts in those cities or municipalities that they can connect with each other so that it can be sustainable. Now also we have already talked also with the National Irrigation Authority, that where the areas that the irrigations are located, all the water districts can interconnect with them also. So that's why we should have again, the operative word is sustainability. That's where I always direct the local water utilities and the water districts to always work hand in hand with this project's source, so that we can already have we can harmonize our projects. Not so what we do here at LWUA now is to always try to converge with the DPWH, with the National Irrigation, with the DNR on all the rules that has to be taken up. So it is clear that during this administration, what I'm doing here is to ensure that the mandate and relevance of LWUA is there, because this was the creation of LWUA is to ensure that the water being the water resource being managed and undertaken by the water districts in the LWUA, since it is really imbued with public interest, we should always ensure that the investments of the national government should be properly taken care of. Because we at LWUA, we are a GOCC. We are a self-sustaining agency.
Right.
So we should be very judicious in how we manage things.
Well, yeah, I mean, you make your income from loan interest. So, yeah, I think it's something that, was always emphasized in the past, that, that people don't appreciate. That you're working with you're working with a thin, a thin pot of resources. What has been the, it's obviously, it seems like the president is, has got some things in mind, but what has been the feedback you've gotten from, say, Department of Finance, DBM, local government units who now have more resources to work with since the mandamus ruling? How much, how much enthusiasm is there for your 25 billion in upcoming projects?
That will be a lot of networking has to be undertaken.
That might put you
Yes.
on the spot a little
Yes.
bit, only being a couple of months on the job,
Yes.
but this is what you're going to have to do.
Yes, I would really ask help from them, that there must really be a continuing government funds that should be infused to LWUA. If we really want, if we're really serious with having a sustainable water resource management for our country, I would like to appeal to all these different departments who are in charge of the purse of our nation to allocate funds for LWUA and the water districts. As you can see, like we have seen that the flood control, it always has about 150 billion pesos every year. So maybe a small slice of that can be allocated if you really want to
Yeah.
sustainable development of the water.
Well, particularly if what you're doing is still aligned with, the flood control objectives. I mean, there's no reason why the two
Yes.
things can't work together.
That's true. That's true.
Well, yeah, I think we're just about out of time. Would you, any final words? Anything that you want to, let people know before we, go on our way?
Thank you for having me here in your program. We at the Local Water Utilities Administration, we are your partners in the development of the water resources in the countryside, together with all the water districts. We are appealing to each and every one of you to since this is now the El Nino, please help our country in ensuring that we're conserving our precious resource of water. And at the same time, regarding the local water utilities and the water districts, we are always here to be with you. And since we will be talking about a sustainable development of our water resources in the entire country, we have embarked with the PBTM project, Patubig sa Buong Bayan at Mamamayan. And this will be the legacy of our president, in which in the next 5 to 6 years, we would like to invest about 25 billion pesos for our more connections to the household. And with our increasing population, we should give them safe, affordable, and sustainable water. And at the same time, there must be the equitable support also on the hygiene and sanitation to ensure that the health of our people are being taken care of. And at the same time, since we are a disaster there's a lot of disaster that comes into our country. We have to be very resilient, and part of the mandate of LWUA and the Water District is to ensure that during disasters, we should always be there to ensure that there's water being provided to the people. So again, I would like to thank this program for having us here today, and maybe this is just the first of our continuing dialogue and advocacy program to ensure that the water resources for our country are being taken care of. So thank you and good morning.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us,
Thank you.
Attorney Vince Revil of the LWUA.
Thank you.